In a world with entirely too many shows about cars, this is another pointless automotive podcast.
Welcome back to another pointless automotive podcast, guys.
Hey.
Frank and Chadwick with you again for another riveting episode of what can only be described as, I don't know,
Frivolous?
in excess of not being focused on anything specifically.
But not in excess. Because what was the name of the lead singer that autoerotic asphyxiated himself off out of this world? Not David Carradine, but the same method of going out in a not a blaze of glory. The opposite of a blaze of glory.
Maybe a shower of glory.
His own glory.
Spritz of glory.
Yeah. I don't know. Does it tend to taper off as you're dying, like the spritzing, if you will, or does it full strength, like even as you shed your mortal coil?
Well, I don't know. You take a mean dump when you die, so
that's true. Maybe you just maybe that's it. Maybe it's like the ultimate like power distance on your ejaculate.
I hope that's how I go out. Honestly, I don't always you could die. Right?
Well, I mean,
not that scenario. I meant like
correct. Yes. I was gonna say the autoerotic asphyxiation. If it's not auto. Bear with us here. If it's not auto, if someone else is choking you out, is it just erotic asphyxiation?
I think you have to be into it still, right? Because you can still be choked out in a violent manner.
True. Then it's not erotic.
Yeah, it's murder.
It's just murder. But what if that's your thing? What if you being murdered is like your ultimate fetish?
I'm sure you only find out once, right?
Well, that's like the bug catchers. That's the thing.
It's true. Well, anyway, to end this, to cut this short, I do hope my climax to my life is a climax.
Fair. The zenith is the zenith.
So, all right. Yes. Well, if we haven't lost you yet, thanks for joining us again, guys.
Today we're going to talk about cars.
Yeah, today's episode we're actually going to talk about cars. We're going to talk about the current market, which is kind of interesting. There's some changes going on now. So we're going to talk about what we consider good buys, given this tumultuous circumstance that we're living in, and what we think are overpriced cars. Now, these are going to be pretty hot takes. Please fight us in the comment section.
Yes, we might consult the 8-ball that's in the cards.
See the 8-ball, yeah, so you can see how wise our wisdom it really is, because we rely on something from the 80s to give us horrible...
The 80s, 90s, or early 2000s, depending on the manufacturer of this particular 8-ball.
Yeah, this one's pretty aged. So yeah, let us know if you agree or disagree. But Frank, let's start off with what would you say, given all the factors that are in play today, are still some good buys for car enthusiasts, not just weirdos like us, but also weirdos like us, to get out there and actually go after? What's a good car to still purchase today?
Well, that's the thing, because I feel like we are, just to kind of table set here, we sort of are coming out of one of the biggest automotive pricing bubbles in modern history. I mean, maybe the early 2000s when you had Hemi Cudas going for $1 million and such.
Boy, yeah.
Back when you had the muscle car boom.
Sure.
The last, this COVID bubble, and I don't want to go out on a limb and declare it's officially over, because prices I feel like are still higher than they were pre-COVID, certainly. But my casual observation is that they're starting to bleed back down a little bit. I'm seeing a lot of stuff either reserve not met, or stuff going for oh wow, that actually on various auction sites, whether it's Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, any of the other ones that nobody cares about. The values, the numbers aren't hitting what they once were.
Sure.
Case in point, our little E30
That's
BMW
right.
that we'll probably dedicate some time distinctly to. We both getting into it, we're thinking that had all the business looking at recent comps from earlier in the year to go north of 20 grand.
Sure.
And it did not hit that number. It went roughly 20 to 25% lower than that number, which was okay. It's a good buy for the new guy.
Definitely some factors baked into that, for sure.
There are, but then, after that, I thought maybe it wasn't the market, but then I started watching some other stuff. I started watching following some auctions on vehicles that I imaged that I thought would go for about 20 to 30% more than they ultimately did. Two of them hit basically, one had its reserve pulled last second, so it sold. It was a Mustang Cobra, 2003, supercharged.
Terminator. Yeah.
One owner car, like 31,000 mile car. I thought it was going to go north of 40 grand because it was very clean.
Yeah.
It was the right color. It was that Sonic Blue, I think that's the name of it.
Cool color. Yeah.
And it barely crested 30 grand. Same on a 911 SC, which was, the reserve was over 40 and it didn't get to 40, it got to 38 and change.
Okay.
And just watching some other stuff. So the market is quote unquote in flux. I don't think the bottom's fallen out.
No.
But while we might like be clutching our pearls because you and I are both actively trying to sell cars,
Sure.
the good news is that leaves some opportunity, I think, in the market.
Yeah. Yeah. And, well, to be fair too, there's a lot of other factors that have recently come into play in
Yes.
the market. Fuel prices being at an all-time historical high. We're seeing vehicles that traditionally, your G-Wagons, your Land Cruisers, your LX470s, which were actually gaining quite a bit of steam, and decidedly so. Those are all really cool vehicles, really sought after, strong followings. But when fuel prices are topping $6-7 in some parts of the country,
Hard to drive.
yeah, these are 10 to 12 to 14 mile per gallon vehicles. That is, even the folks, because the richest of the rich probably aren't looking at Land Cruisers. It's going to be for the people that are
That's
comfortable.
the G-Wagon crew.
Yeah, the G-Wagon crew would be more like that. But even then, you're not looking at used vehicles and you're not worried about fuel economy. But when you get to a certain bracket, income bracket, if you will, you are looking at that. Does factor into your cost because that is a recurring cost. And if you're going to run that vehicle, you're going to be dipping into your wallet quite a bit right now to fuel one of those. Like me with this Land Cruiser Overland build behind us. It plays into how much I drive it, sparingly use it. So I think that's another market factor. Also the fact that new cars are still not close to meeting demand. It's keeping strength. It's keeping strength in the used market. So used values are staying high for that reason because if you want a new vehicle, you're going to probably have to wait 6 months for something desirable.
Well, and that's the rub, right? Like I think there are, and that's why I think it's worth us having this conversation today, is because the market is kind of all over the place. There's some stuff that the prices we're watching a drop happen. There's other stuff that is holding strong because of that, right? Like if you're going to go out and try and buy the market's going down, I'm going to go buy a 3-year-old RAV4 hybrid. Best of luck to you because that market's not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's going to be more than MSRP.
Correct.
Yeah.
MSRP of a new one because you can't get the new one.
Yeah, and if you could get a new one, you're going to pay a markup at a dealership.
Yeah, you're paying $15K on top. So. Stuff like that, 5-year-old or newer, anything that gets remotely good gas mileage, best of luck to you.
Yeah.
But that does leave some other stuff that kind of more towards what we like to play with.
Yeah.
That I think there are good buys. And I'll start off with one, and you kind of mentioned it, and it's right up in that same alley with like the 100 series Land Cruisers, and maybe you'll wax poetic about that specifically, but I just bought myself recently, and I've talked about it in recent episodes, a GMT 800 Chevy Suburban.
Yeah.
It's a 2001 Chevy Suburban 1500 Z71, so 4-wheel drive, all the off-road package goodies and stuff. It's a nice truck, and I got it for kind of a song. It's not perfect. It's got some warning lights on, but it's smog.
Yeah.
It needs a window regulator. It's got a couple of dings, but it's presentable.
Yeah.
It needed tires, but I paid $2,800 for the truck. Because nobody at almost $7 a gallon, $6 a gallon wants to go out and buy one of those right now to go drive around. Even if they're hardly going to drive it, which is my scenario.
Right. Tow rig.
Yeah, perfect for that. And so if you are looking for something that is right in like the depreciation sweet spot.
Yeah.
Because it's not the earlier GMT 400 trucks, which are great. They've got a lot of nostalgia and the prices reflect that. Correct. The 800 trucks, I think, are, if you just need to use it, a much better truck.
It's a work truck.
The interiors are much better put together. And on and on and on.
Yeah.
The 5.3 liter, stone ass reliable, same with the 4.8. Those are just incredibly reliable. Transmissions are good for maybe 200,000.
That's pretty good.
I've got 191 on mine, so I don't want to talk about it too much.
And knock on some wood here.
But because of what the market is doing right now, I think anything, as you noted, that gets dog shit for gas mileage,
more attainable.
buy now. So long as you don't have to drive it daily. If you're just looking for something fun, something that's reliable if you need to tow, you need to occasionally haul humans around.
Sure.
You need to occasionally, whatever. I think the GMT 800 series, whether that's a Suburban like mine, which is probably the best buy because it's the biggest and worst fuel economy, and there's a certain stigma to driving a Suburban right now. I think that's the best buy. But any of those, the pickup trucks, the Yukons, Denali, shoot, that same generation of Escalade, if you want to partake in that. I think those are all very attainable right now in a market where there's not everything is attainable.
Yeah, it's a great time to buy that. Like you said, with fuel costs being what they are, just get in there and get it now.
Yep.
Probably going to be the lowest it's been in a while, probably.
Probably, and that is the caveat though, is that if you're not driving it every day, because if you're trying to do it like, oh, I'm going to buy it low, anticipating that 2 months from now that gas is going to go back down to $3 a gallon, best of luck to you. I don't see that happening.
Not a safe bet at all.
No,
so yeah, keep that in mind. And those costs do add up. If you're going to daily something like this, what do you, if you don't mind me asking, what are you seeing for actual fuel economy so far?
I dare not actually calculate it.
Okay, so
I have not done it, but I've
low double digits probably.
Low double digits, but I did put $200 into the tank in one go.
Woo, baby.
Because it'll do, I don't know what the exact, but I put like 26 gallons in it.
Okay.
One straight shot.
Yeah, I forgot how big the tanks were.
The large.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Largos. And I towed something, 150 miles each way, and I was back down to a quarter tank.
Okay.
So not great gas mileage, but I was towing and stuff. So my sample size is not to write home about, but I bet it's 12 miles an hour.
Getting full size trucks would be a good buy. I've got one we talk about too. I think this gets overlooked quite often.
Okay.
As far as enthusiasts are concerned now, M3s always hold their value. They get to a point where they get low because a new model comes out.
Yeah.
That tends to be the bottom of the depreciation. Then maybe 2 models, they get a little lower, and then they start to come back because, who knows? We're looking back fondly. There's like historical value in those.
Mm-hmm.
Base BMWs right now.
I kind of have that on my list a little bit.
Do you have it? I put specifically.
More specific, but I'll let you talk about your base.
I picked two. I picked the E36 and E46 base models.
Sure. Yeah.
Because right now, like if you're to go get a 328 or 325 E36, which is still a fantastic handling machine,
good car.
You don't get the M goodies and the M clout, I think you could say. So you can't really rub elbows over the M gear. I mean, you can put M badges on it though.
What was it on Friends? Was it Joey that was like pretending he owned a
watched
Porsche?
an episode of.
Here's the thing. I've never sat down and turned on a TV and was like, I'm going to watch an episode of Friends. That has never happened.
Were you using a shelf climber and watching it? Is that what you're alluding to?
No, but what I'm saying is, I've watched that show secondhand.
Okay.
I've probably seen every episode secondhand several times because that was like, there are a handful of shows that's like my wife, I hate falling asleep to the TV, but that's my wife's gig is like she wants the TV on when she falls asleep. And so there's a couple of shows that cycle through, and that is one of the long-term favorites. Is Friends. And so it'll be just on in the background or on during, and so it's like wormed its way into my brain.
Sure.
And I'm not even trying to say like I'm too cool for Friends, because it certainly has its moments, but I've never been like, I'm going to sit down and watch Friends. There is an episode where I believe it's Joey, he doesn't have a car, and then he's like out front of his like flat in wherever they're in Manhattan or something somehow, because it's cheap to live there and he has no job.
Yeah.
They there's like a some sort of Porsche. It's like a 911 or something parked in the street, and there's all these girls that are like googling it, and he's like, oh yeah, that's mine or whatever. And then so he pretends it's his, and then it leaves, right? So he just gets like a whole bunch of boxes and like shapes it like a 911 and puts a car cover over it, and he's like, oh, I'm just tucking my baby in, and like hitting on these chicks as they're walking down the street.
Oh my God.
And he's wearing head to toe Porsche gear. He's got the Porsche hat and the Porsche jacket.
That's freaking
for the whole thing.
So sort of like
that's sort of like that. You don't get that M clad clout.
Yeah. You don't,
but you still get a good car.
Yeah, these were great cars. You could still get like really sporty things. I know the E46, one of the real popular ones is the 330. You could get the ZHP, which was a great option. And it's, okay, they're starting to get recognized. I'm not gonna lie, a clean ZHP is fetching some serious dough.
Yes.
But these are things not to pass over, guys. These are still great handlers. They make great track cars. Or if you need a weekend affordable, fun sports car,
right?
Also dailyable. Like an E36, E46, probably I'd lean towards an E46 for daily comfort.
Yeah.
The interiors
the interiors on the E36 are kind of, probably the most notoriously terrible of any BMW product.
Downhill from E30. Like E30 interiors are pretty stout, pretty sturdy materials. E36 took a step down. E46 brought it back up. So, I'm not a snob, but I do like my interior to like stay together.
Right, not have like all the trim panels fall apart.
E36, E46, the base cars, and not even that they're that much base. Like we said, the ZHP is an option.
Right.
They are fantastic handlers, right out of the box.
Yeah, I mean, I think I prefer. I have on here specifically the more literally non-M E36s.
Yeah,
because when I was at Radwood, which we just talked about last episode, I had a lot of E30s.
Yeah,
and a fairly standard, 318 E30 is still a somewhat valuable and respected and cool car. I'm waiting for when E36s are going to be there, and I think we're right on the cusp of that.
Sure.
With the non-M models. So if you find yourself a nice clean E36, 328, either coupe or sedan or convertible with a manual.
They had 325 ISs.
You got 325 IS.
Yeah.
If you really want to be cool, you want to go a 318 Ti.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. Yeah, I'm with you.
Definitely do that. Although those have been such a little bit of a unique kind of blip on the BMW radar, that those have kind of held a premium for a little bit.
Sure.
Because a lot of those were automatics and kind of beat down.
Yeah. It was like cheapest BMW product for sale at the time, right? I think that was the.
I think so. I think that's right. Yeah. It was kind of like and this is one that should be on my list. Oh. And I guess I'm just now officially stream of consciousness putting it on my list.
We'll allow it.
The W203 C-Class, that's kind of the crappy one.
Yeah, but still.
But they did the same trick, and you can get the C-Class Coupe, where you get the two-door C-Class with a hatchback. It had kind of a bubble rear.
That's right.
With some weird taillights and like not quite a light bar, but like a blackout panel on the rear.
They were interesting.
The rear hatch. Yeah, interesting looking, and you can get those with a cloth interior and a manual, either in the six-cylinder, like a 320, or the supercharged four-cylinder, the compressor, the C. That's what most of them were. Most of them were the compressor automatic base model. But you can get those optioned out, and with a six-cylinder and a manual, they're cheap and they're kind of cool, and nobody sees it. And I think that's a car that's going to be very emblematic of the early 2000s, because that car looks. It just looks like 2002.
Looks exactly.
Yeah, it looks like Koopa Stank. Like it looks like early 2000s.
Yeah.
Back when Jenny was still Jenny from the block, she used to have a little. Now she has a lot.
God.
Very similar, like that early 2000s era. I think that car. I don't want to know. I'm curious. We should do eventually. I keep coming up with these ideas for podcast episodes and then promptly forgetting them when it comes down to actually doing podcast episodes.
Perfect.
But what does the Radwood of the future look like? I.e., the 2000 to 2010 era of car. What will be the cool, interesting things? And I think if you showed up with an immaculate, they made those in like a lime green color, C-Class coupe, six-cylinder manual. Or even the four-cylinder supercharged with a manual.
Yeah, it's true.
Cloth interior, moment in time, and that's the Mercedes-Benz version of that.
That's a good
318 Ti, I think. Just a decade forward in time.
I like that. Yeah, that's a good find if you can source a manual, especially.
That's the hard part because those cars had the snot kicked out of them because they were. Let's face it, the build quality is kind of junk on that era of Mercedes-Benz with like the era S-Class.
They were kind of valueless for a while, right? Like if something critical went wrong.
Even still a little bit.
Yeah, because if there's if you're needing to do like a major overhaul or there's any kind of
timing chain rattle, you're
suspension.
Yeah, exactly.
You're right.
Suspension component.
Totaling the car. That's a good one. I also put another good buy, and I see this from time to time. A good buy is a Porsche Boxster.
Yeah,
they're still hanging around very obtainium levels.
They are,
and they're great.
That's 986 specifically, yeah.
Specifically, yeah. So
agree, very much agree, wholeheartedly agree.
Wonderful driver's car, very engaging to drive. You're talking about a convertible experience with a beautiful flat six engine powering you, and manuals are aplenty. This isn't something where you have to hunt too hard for a manual. A lot of the Boxsters are manual because it was a sports car through and through. I think you can still get out there. Yes, we're gonna have the people shaking their fist and saying IMS, bore scoring, all the traditional Porsche fears, which actually play out. A very small percentage of these cars are impacted by this, guys.
Correct. Yeah, they're not like completely unfounded.
But what car? Every car had some kind of critical.
Sure.
You know, whatever. But for the price point and what you're getting into, yeah, you know, you gotta at a certain point you have to look at what you're gonna drive, like the experience, the performance it offers for the price point.
Correct.
You have to balance it with something, right? It's not just gonna be all positive. So I think the Boxster, I put that as a good buy still, and I don't think we're gonna be seeing that for too much longer.
Correct. I think that's right. I think the state of the current market is I think they're going to be flat for a little while as far as the values. But the fact that you can go out and get yourself a very decent driver you can get like almost the nicest driver you can find for under 10.
It's wild.
And you can get a very reasonable, decent driver in the 5-6 range with a manual.
Cheaper than Miatas.
Some cool options. Yeah, build quality. It's actually not that bad.
It's not that
It's just not that. It's just, you know, back to the E46 jargon. Far better than something like that.
Far better.
But if you think about its contemporaries, like, its contemporaries were that, okay, so you've got the 986, it's what, an S2000? And if you look at dollar for dollar for an S2000 versus a 986 Boxster, okay, you're down a little bit of power, you've got more torque, it's a mid-engine flat 6 car.
Right.
As much as I like me some S2000, that car is not, because what's your cheapest reasonably decent S2000 right now? 20? Maybe 15?
Yeah, well, if you're not playing around with salvage titles, yeah, 15
Correct.
is going to get you.
Salvage titles, and let's say 150,000 miles
Yeah, 15.
with some dings in it, mostly stock.
Yeah.
Probably 15.
Mostly stock's pretty tricky.
15 to 20, yeah, and that's the tricky part there. And so, triple the cost of a driver Boxster?
Get yourself a Boxster, perfect entry-level Porsche.
Yeah.
And it really does offer a lot, and yeah, we talked about the maintenance
Better
stuff.
than an M3.
Oh.
E46 M3, at least an S, if you're talking a Boxster S. Convertible, I'm saying convertible.
Yes,
E46 convertible.
Not a fan of E46 convertibles.
They're okay. They're not a coupe. They're okay.
Yeah.
But I prefer a Boxster. What else you got? SLK. It's a no-brainer.
SL500.
Also a no. Two wildly different cars, I think.
Very. Yeah.
You had Miata, which
Are more expensive.
more expensive, which is insanity if you think about it.
Is it though?
Well,
We'll talk about Miatas in a
we'll talk about Miata. The thing I liked about the 986 Boxsters is part of the reason the price is so low is everyone's afraid of repairs and maintenance on them, which they're not in a Miata.
It's the opposite.
Right. And so, but the good news is on those cars, everything is a known entity at this point.
Yeah.
There is a DIY guide or a video guide for effectively every single thing that can go sideways on one of those cars. As long as the engine doesn't completely punch a hole in the block,
Which they don't.
they don't tend to unless you just bought yourself a shitty example. Okay, timing chain issues and stuff, but those are all curable things if you want to turn a wrench.
Sure.
And you've got the room to do so. So,
But that's it. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And this is the boogeyman, the IMS bearing, the bore scoring. These are the boogeymen that keep the price down.
Correct.
Remember the same thing was true for E90 BMWs. They had some engine issues, but now no one gives a crap because it's like still a wonderful high revving V8.
and it's naturally aspirated, and we're in the last gasp of naturally aspirated.
But do you remember that?
cars.
It held the value so low for so long. You're talking like 20K for an E90 M3, and now
And even still, you can kind of get one
30 something.
30 something is a very nice one
Yeah, but it's
with a 60.
But you're not finding them like
whatever
these two.
spec.
Well, those 20K
No, not like
ones
these
were
two.
nice too back in the day.
They were.
I think the boogeyman comes out, and then all the real car people say, "I don't care about the boogeyman," and then you see them enjoying these cars, right?
Yeah,
And then
it's kind of, hey, you know what? And you know what happens? The conversation you have with that guy when you bump into him at a show. You know what? It's actually been really reliable. It's been really good. I just had to do some fluids. I had this one thing go wrong. I lost a coil pack. I replaced that. I found a really good deal on a part through blah 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 blah, and it's been really good.
During that time,
the
the value's doing one of these where it starts going up.
Yeah.
And then they're holding herself onto something that appreciated and they enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think at some point it kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, where the car gets parked because people are afraid to put miles on it because they're afraid it's going to break, and then it breaks because the car doesn't get driven, and it just atrophies into nothing.
True. But the ones that get driven, those slightly higher, I love just over 100,000 mile cars.
118,000 miles.
That's my sweet spot, baby, because any of those critical
stack of
things,
sheets, like, hey, look, I kept after it.
Yeah, the big stuff would have already showed itself. I love those cars.
Have you inspected the IMS bearing yet?
Oh yeah, let me just pull my engine apart.
Yeah. So I think that's a good one. You know what I'm a little wary of? I'm a little wary about 996s to keep it in the. I think those prices are going to drop a little bit.
They did. They were massively low, and now they've come back.
They were low and they're up, but I don't.
Porsche's only going one
Where
direction.
we're at right. Well, I don't know
Because I feel like overarching.
The thing is, they sold a lot of those cars. If you've got a special, you're talking a 996 GT3. Okay, fine, that's not going anymore.
The turbos were
a turbo S with a manual. That value's not going anymore. But your Tiptronic cab 996,
bottom of the barrel.
Yeah. Or just not even that. Like just maybe a base Carrera or Carrera S with a manual. I like those cars a lot. I think the bubble's not. It's not going to go back to pre-pandemic, but I think that's a car that the value is going to. I think it's going to lose a little bit. Those are. They made a lot of them. They had a stigma for a while, and it's kind of gone away. But now that so many people have seen the heights of it, I think people are like, oh yeah, I'd rather spend that money on a 997, and I don't want to maintain it. And now that gas is $1 billion a gallon, and I think the bloom is going to come off the rose a little bit on those. I think the honeymoon, the newfound honeymoon period for the 996 it's not going to go huge money, but I think they're not going to lose a ton of money. But I think a car that might have been a $35,000 very nice 996 with a manual might come back to a $25,000 car.
Maybe. I think 996.
Wait, 8-ball me, bro.
Okay, let's see.
8-ball me, dog. All right. Will the values of the 996 Porsche 911 fall? I don't know. Let's just say more than 20% over the next 18 months.
For those listening,
on average,
Frank is holding a physical 8-ball.
I'm jiggling it in my hand. I'm minding the stepchildren, if you will, and signs point to yes.
Ooh, the 8-ball's pretty accurate.
8-ball's pretty good. It's also on my side. So that's one I'm a little wary, and I would say, and let me pull back the curtain. I had mentioned this earlier off air. I kind of feel like we're in the same boat for the driver quality E46 M3s.
Yes.
I think that's going to very much follow that same suit, because we were looking at like, oh, it's a 5-speed E46 M3 going for 30 grand for a driver quality with a 6-speed with maybe
coupe.
some
coupe, not a convertible.
I think that's going to fall another 25%, just because of what it takes to keep those things going.
That I'd probably be less likely to agree with. Just because I think the 996 will always be the cheaper 911 for a couple obvious reasons.
What was on either side of that generation, right?
Right. Well, we got to talk about the headlights.
Right.
We have to talk about the interior.
Sure.
Those are two big marks, and that will never get better for that car.
But what I think works in that car's advantage is that it's a 911. A 911 is a 911, a 911. An M3 is a 3 Series, which, it's a nice 3 Series. It's got fair fenders, and it's got a little vents on the grill, and it's got special wheels.
It's got an M badge, bro.
It's got an M badge, bro.
I had to throw the bro.
But it does, bro. But it's not a standalone sports car. A 911 will always be a 911. It always looks like a 911. It will never be mistaken for anything else. 911 guy is always going to want a 911 guy. But the M car is very cool, and E46 M3 is one of my favorites.
Sure.
But it's based off of a coupe / sedan / station wagon chassis.
So E30 M3 owners, watch your values. They'll never go down.
That's a homologation race car.
Oh, come on, man.
That's a little bit different.
It also was. It also only had a 4-cylinder one. You could get a 325 with an inline 6, which is BMW's bread and butter, sweet stuff.
Bread and or butter. So yeah, I think those are. I think the market is going to respond. What do you think? We're talking good buys. What do you think is a bad buy right now?
Well, let's do a couple more good buys. Stay positive. Yeah, let's stay positive. BMW Z3s.
Yeah,
dude, you want to get to a solid hydraulic, still had hydraulic steering. So you didn't get to that electric steering, which came with the Z4. The Z3 looks. Tell me the looks of the Z3 aren't phenomenal.
It looks very good, and I think if you're looking for a cruiser that can be fun and has a manual, it's a very good buy.
If you're looking for a Miata but can't afford a Miata, it has a BMW badge now.
It does. They're different. I think
they are, but
the Z3 is a little bit more ponderous. Isn't the right word?
It's chunky.
It's chunky.
Where's the Huskies?
You know, it's fun. I mean, you can toss it in the corner. The ass end's going to want to step out because it's got that semi-trailing arm, you know, E30 rear suspension, which is fine. It's fun.
You can get an inline 6, which was
you
never
get
my
inline 6. It's good. I had one for a moment in time. I really enjoyed it. It's funny though, if you drive one of those and then drive back to our 986 top.
Yeah.
You drive a Boxster. The difference is kind of night and day.
Sure. Yeah, well, mid-engine.
Right. For sort of, but still also kind of sort of the same money. I do like, if you want to, it's easier to keep the Z3 on the road.
Sure.
You can make an argument that the Z3 is a better looking car.
Yeah.
That mid-engine round up sports car that the Boxster is so flat and balanced and sure-footed. And the Z3 is much more quote-unquote tossable.
Sporty.
It's sporty. It's not a sports car.
No,
it's more of a. I would say it's between the Boxster. It's between the Boxster and that SLK that I just maligned a minute ago.
That's fair, but the Z3 was a Bond car.
True.
I think the value's there, but that's why
there's still value there.
Dude,
there is still value there. Because I definitely agree.
Also, they're modeled after the E46 generation of the BMWs, which are going up in value, right?
Sure.
So I see the Z3s, especially the Z3s with a manual, especially the Z3s with an inline 6. Yep. I can see their values minimum holding and guaranteed to.
And those are a lot easier cars to keep on the road.
Yeah.
Than a Boxster.
What a good driver's car.
I don't want to say the Boxster is a better car than a Z3. I will say they're different.
Great value for money.
Different purposes as far as convertible. They are good. Yeah, I definitely agree there. I think either one. If you're just looking for a good buy, you're not going to lose on either of those.
And a good fun sporting car.
And a good fun top-down sporting car. I think the coupes are cool but overpriced.
Yeah. Top down's what's at with those.
Top down's coming out, money ain't a thing.
Yeah.
Rolling hard and
dump them out. Drop the top, dump them out.
Flash the rings. Yeah. Win a crack out the back. Money ain't a thing.
Okay, so let's go to let's put on our jaded goggles here and talk about what do you guys think's overpriced in this market? I know a lot of people have a lot of input on this, but I want to ask you, Frank, what is your first totally overpriced? This is going to be contentious. We're definitely going to rile some folks up on these comments. But what do you think's overpriced in today's market, Frank? Go ahead and shoot.
So I kind of
shot.
Oh, I will. Did you ever listen to any of those old Adam Sandler CDs, the albums he would put out?
Like the Goat one?
There was the Goat, like the Goat Boy.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes.
And there was at a medium pace, if you remember that.
That's true, yep. That's true.
Pretend I'm the pizza delivery guy and watch me whack off. Where was I going with this?
What did you say? Overpriced cars?
Go lead it into it. I'm already lost.
Okay, let's just shoot your shot.
Shoot your shot.
There
okay.
We go.
Well, there's a skit on there that he has on there.
Oh God.
Is this sex or weightlifting? And
with audio clips. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, there's two guys. Sorry, you were wrong. Those were two guys doing butterfly presses, and they were just like literally like very clear as day. Engaging in intercourse.
What's overpriced?
Shoot your shot was worth into that.
Yeah.
That was part of that audio theater.
We got that.
So for me, shooting my shot, I've already kind of touched on the 996 thing and the E46 M3 thing. I don't know what to make of the E36 M3 because those are really kind of come storming up in value lately.
Wild.
To the point where they're almost on par with nice E46s as far as value.
That usually happens.
But I think the E46 is far out the better buy. I think it looks better. I think it drives better.
Performance.
It's a little heavier, sure. It's more problematic as far as maintenance. Like you can see an E36 M3 that's had its cooling system managed, hit 200,000 miles. You got to do a lot of things on an E46. You do rod bearings and Venice and rear subframe and on and on and on to do that with an E46. So it's not an apple. It's a little bit of an apples to dildos comparison, but an E36 is high right now, and I don't know if it's going to sustain. And so if I was out purchasing myself an M car, I would buy an E90. I would not buy an E36.
That's
and
fair.
maybe keep an eye out, because I think the E46 prices, as I just mentioned, if they haven't already started, are on the cusp of dropping. So if you can hold on to your pennies for a few months, if you want yourself an M3, that's what I would not go out and buy an E36 right now. I think that is highly questionable. Your thoughts, sir?
So I would say E36. So the looks are there. I think
Correct.
the E36 has aged wonderfully.
Yes.
We've already beaten the interior to death, and it already has beaten itself to death over time.
Except for the motor, though. Those motors are stout.
So it's a good motor because it's under stress. We did not get the real M engine that they got in Europe.
Right.
Hence why you don't have Vanos issues. But the Europeans market ones did have those same issues as the E46, so there isn't that much of a delta by maintenance.
Fact.
So I think the E36 will not lose value because they got so low. We're talking 5, 6, 7 grand. You could get a good driver not too long ago.
They're not going to go back there.
But needed a lot of maintenance. M cars
Yeah.
always, maintenance is key. Any sports car in general, or any car in general. I can go wax poetic about this.
Please.
But let's be honest. Those cars bottomed out. Kids bought them, beat the crap out of them, ruined them, slammed them, crashed them.
Boiled them, mashed them, put them in stew.
Snorted them.
Yeah.
Finding a clean E36 M3 is a big challenge.
Sure.
You could get a sedan, which was also really cool. You couldn't do that with the E46.
Correct.
So I think the M3s are going to at least hold their value at a minimum. I don't see it stepping down. But I do think they're overpriced for what they are, my friend.
Yeah.
I'm not going to
agree.
lie. I think the performance isn't there. The 0 to 60 time is not... I mean, it's never a drag car, but like...
They're fun to drive.
they
I've
are,
driven a
but
few.
relative-
I do like the way they drive. I like the way they feel when you get one. But does that mean I want to go spend $23,000 for one?
I
No.
don't think it justifies the price point. So I would agree. M cars in general are overpriced. Those M coupes are cool, but good lord, they're fetching so much money. And if you get the E36 M coupe with the S52,
Yes.
which is just the 240 horsepower
Yes.
engine, I think that's completely overpriced.
It is, but I don't think the delta in drive between the S52 powered car and the S54 powered car, the price difference is pretty substantial.
That's a
10 to
it's
15,000
100 horsepower, dude. How much does it cost to add a
Depends on what you're
horsepower
doing.
to a car?
If you're tracking it, yes, the difference is worth it.
I still like Canyon. Like when I drive.
If you're honest with yourself and you're like, oh, I'll take it on a twisty road twice a year, and the rest of the time I'm driving around town, get the S52 car and take that $15,000 savings, stick it in your bank account, and then you don't have to sweat that maintenance.
Yeah, but if I'm buying a sports car, like my Miata and my Porsche only get driven at like 7/10 or more.
Great.
And only on the
Then get the S54.
Yeah, right. You'd opt for that.
If you're mostly driving around town and drive it maybe pseudo aggressively downtown, and like, oh, you're gonna hop on the freeway off ramp and jump on it.
Sure.
Get the S52 car. It's more reliable. It's got better lower end grunt than you have to wind that S54 motor out, which is fun. But if you don't use it, it's going to be more of a maintenance headache, and you pay a premium for that maintenance
Well,
headache.
you know me, I'm an advocate of you buy a sports car, you better use it. So,
Wind it out, yeah, but
and own a dozen cars is my other stance on life. But
so my 12 dailies,
yeah. So my other overpriced car, I want to rate current market overpriced things, hybrids and electrics.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yep.
Yes.
away.
This is purely.
Don't do it.
Yeah, stay away from them right now unless you have to, unless you get a deal. Now, if you find a screaming deal and it makes sense and you crunch the numbers first versus fuel savings,
Yes.
absolutely jump in. But I'm telling you guys, this fuel thing probably isn't going away soon, and
Nope.
it is a very serious thing. And for that reason, anyone selling a Prius even is seeing like way more value than they were like 2 years ago. The same car was like literally thousands cheaper.
Or early COVID, let's say you had a second gen Prius in good shape, smogged, with 180,000 miles.
Sure, hybrid batteries, good health.
Yeah, it's a good car, get in, maybe a couple dents and dings.
Sure,
It's just a commuter, right?
Commuter, yeah.
That was a $3,500 car.
All day.
It's genuinely doubled at this point.
Which is wild.
minimum.
Yeah.
That's now a $7,000 car for some tweaker to steal the catalytic converter off of it from you,
Which they
and
will.
total it out.
Yeah.
So, it's tough because there's very clearly a reason why that is there. But, to go out right now and try and buy a whatever RAV4 hybrid, not even a prime.
Yeah, the plug-in
Not even a
hybrids
prime.
are out of this world.
That's well, there was the meme of the Oakland dealership. They had theirs at 94 grand to buy one off their lot. It had $45,000 in markup and bullshit stacked on it. Terrible idea. Even half that, even walking in and say buying that car with $10,000 over sticker. That's not a $50,000 car.
Well, that's why.
It's not a $45,000 car.
That's exactly
That's
why.
a $32,000 car that should cost you $32,000. And if you're buying it to quote unquote save money on fuel, that $10,000 on the hood goes a long way.
It does. But I started this off with
what you got.
you
dog.
better crunch your numbers, right?
Yes.
So what I mean by that is crunch up your fuel savings versus what you're currently using, or what you could realistically get to replace. Compare
Yes.
their fuel economies and then the savings over time. When you do pay that hard value, right? When you buy the car, that's a
Yes.
sunk cost at that point, right?
Fact.
So you're gonna have to recoup that cost, especially if you're spending 10K over.
Especially if it's also actively depreciating on top of that.
Yeah.
Because it's a new car.
Of course, and you're already over sticker, which is already you're getting your foot in the door below what it's valued at.
Unless
if
you're
trying
walking
to
in with
sell.
cash, you're also financing
Oh, boy.
not just the cost of the car, but you're financing that 10 grand on top.
So what is it? The Stranger Things. It's the upside down. You're in the upside down.
Correct.
If
Yes.
you're doing this.
So guess what? If you wreck that thing when you're pulling it out of the dealership, guess who's not going to pay you that $10,000 you spent on sticker?
Your insurance
Your
company.
insurance company. That is coming straight out of your corner.
But you have to do this math, guys. You really have to sit down.
or meth.
Yeah, do math, then do the math.
Math.
Extra challenging. But do the math if you can. Now, used market, like you can still get some pretty cool deals. They are a little more. You have to do the math. But I think right now, in this current market where we're in kind of a gas like financial crisis mode because the absolute high price of gas countrywide, it's like the entire country. You need to really think it through before you make that jump to hybrid or electrics. Even old electrics. We're looking at beat up Leafs, Nissan Leafs, which get, we have to say Leafs, right? Because
Not
we can't
queefs.
say Leaves. Well, they are kind of, they run on queefs.
Oh.
I've heard.
Rare.
You
is
can
the
hook
car
a
that
tube
runs.
up to the driver or
That's-
passenger.
Right, or whoever you have imprisoned in your trunk to keep such an operation going.
I didn't think we were going to talk about that, but
If you have multiple Leafs, is it Leafs or Leaves? I think it is. I think you're right.
I think
it
it's
is
Leafs. Yeah, you can't say Leaves. Changes the
Leaf-I.
naming convention. Those beaten down batteries putting out like 30 miles maximum range, they're still asking like a premium because it's an electric car during a fuel issue.
If your commute is 4.5 miles each way,
Get a bike.
yeah, exactly. Just get a bike or a moped or an e-bike. Get an e-bike. Literally, those Leafs right now are e-bike. Those degraded battery are e-bike levels of range.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
You can spend $2,000 on a very nice e-bike and then do that and have more fun. And yeah, sure, okay, you might die. But
You can cut your range in half by charging your iPhone.
exactly. So yeah, I think that's well put. And I always have, if you're going to stretch yourself to purchase a vehicle,
Phrasing.
a car, right? Goatsy. If you are going to stretch yourself to purchase a car that's truly special and you can keep the rest of your life and is or at least for a very long time, and is a truly special car, okay, like I think you can find a way to make that math work. To do it on a car that's a straight up appliance, that not only are you going to be fighting depreciation, but you're also going to be financing all of this, and so you're financing a depreciating asset that will also the moment that the supply chain thing gets sorted out, which, let's face it, you're probably financing this car for 80 months or something dumb.
Yeah, you're talking new. Yeah.
The moment you do that, you're now, by the time you're done with your 118 month stupid loan at 4.9% APR, by the time you get there, not like this, hopefully, all this nonsense with supply chain stuff is the bottom's that'll be resolved.
Yeah.
And once that's resolved, there goes the money you put on the hood, there goes all that value. It's now tanked, you've overpaid for something, and who knows what a lot of this electric stuff is going to do.
Did you have another one, Frank, other than hybrids and electrics that you think are currently overpriced on the market?
I am going to come at you with some serious blaspheming. And that is the current market price on a few of the quote-unquote Japanese Godzilla cars.
Oh.
As much as I am a Supra diehard, OG Supra diehard.
You are.
Going out and spending $120,000 on a clean, late run Mark IV Supra twin turbo with a manual stock is absurdity. Yeah. And going out and spending $90,000 on a very clean, early 5-speed NSX is insanity. FDRX7s haven't quite gotten there because they're, I don't want to say catastrophically unreliable, but there's a lot of babysitting to be done on that car.
They're still hitting.
3000 GTs have not gotten there, probably for, I don't want to say similar reasons, but part of the reason is that Mitsubishi has been a non-entity for so long, really, a non-player in the space for a significant chunk of time. 300ZX twin turbos have still not gotten there. So I think, as much as I would absolutely, the Mark IV Supra is the quintessential poster child of my youth. Like that would be the car that I was to have, if you were to corner 15-year-old me and be like, hey, pick a car, it's yours. It would have been that. It would have been a Imperial Jade Mica Green 98 Supra twin turbo with a tan leather interior and a 6-speed.
That's how you roll.
And at the time, that was a $25,000 car.
Yeah.
Or potentially brand new, depending on where my youth was, and you go to spend
40K.
50, and run were like 50, 54. Yeah. And probably discounted because they weren't selling them. They were just sitting on a dealer showroom.
Couldn't move them.
And the owner of the dealership trying to pressure his wife into driving it. She's like, I don't want to drive that. He's like, oh, but it's really cool. It's really nice slick back hair. And so there were a lot of those that were probably at discount. Okay. Paying the Fast and Furious tax and the nostalgia tax on those. Yeah. It's just absolute insanity. And then, same deal with the NSX. And those took a little bit longer. Those didn't get the Fast and Furious bump. Those just got they were finally appreciated outside of their time bump.
A lot
I
love
those cars. Yeah. But, if you can get one at 40, cool. That's a $40,000 car all day long. But those days are over. Same with the Super Twin Turbo. You get one at 40? Cool. Like 120, you can buy an amazing amount of special for $120,000. I could pay off the majority of my mortgage for $120,000.
I could buy a lot of shit boxes.
So you can buy 100 shit boxes.
How cool
that
would be?
That would be good.
Pretty cool.
So I guess what I'm getting at is that's not a necessarily new thing in the market.
Right.
I don't know if the prices on those will sustain. I'm inclined to think they are. I don't think those early NSXs are going to drop any significant amount. I don't think those Mark IV Supras are going to drop any significant amount.
No.
Your 3000 GTs are probably going to hold. 300ZXs I still think are undervalued. I think they're probably going to hold. FDRX7s are going to continue to have LS motors swapped into them, and they're going to continue to hold. And that's one of the prettiest cars of all time is the FDRX7.
Sure. Great car.
So I think those three are a good buy. The bad buys, as much as I hate to admit it, NSX, Supra. Not that anyone probably listening to this has Supra money, at least now.
Yeah.
I know I don't.
Yeah. And I'd buy a million.
And it's a damn shame because I mean, new they weren't even getting their asking price of $50-something thousand at the end of the run. Probably for good measure that it's not a $50-something thousand driving experience even then. I mean, I guess it was then, but now it's not. Toyota Camry is almost 320 horsepower, which was for that car.
Right.
So, I can wax on and on about that. But that would be my last one, and it's kind of I don't want to call it a cop out because it's not necessarily dependent on the current market, but I don't think the current market will truly affect the prices on those.
Yeah, no, they're gonna keep appreciating.
Which, hey, I guess if you have the money to do it, no, you're not going to lose your lunch. You're just parking 120 grand.
Yeah, drive it if you get it.
Yeah, that's it. Just
Drive it.
literally don't park it. Just
How about this? Parting shot, overpriced.
okay.
Anything new? New cars right now, there's...
What new cars?
I mean, if you can find one, yeah, but how much are you paying, man? You're waiting and you're paying more. If you're gonna go buy a new vehicle, it's one of the few times that's been like this. I think in general, the market's just, if you're looking for something new, if you can find a used version, and you still can find used, like if you're in the market for like a brand new Honda Accord or Camry or 4Runner, you can get a used one, you're gonna pay almost nearly the same amount.
You're going to pay $5,000 over MSRP.
It's a tough situation.
20,000 miles.
It's a really tough situation. So, I thought that was a good conversation. I want to talk about what's still good. There's still some good buys out there, believe it or not, guys. You can get out there if you do your research. You hunt around. You don't settle for the first thing you see.
Right.
And you don't buy into some of the hype machine that's
Don't
rolling
believe
around.
the hype.
Yeah,
Don't
don't believe it. Don't buy into it. There's still some great cars. Even we touched upon enthusiastic cars.
Mm-hmm.
Do your research, guys. But I think that's it.
The cars, they're very enthusiastic.
Yeah, it's a tough market, man. It's a tough market for those people looking for like reliable, dailies. It's a good time to start looking backwards. Get something a little older, something well maintained. But I think that's it, man. I think
Find
that's
that
it.
depreciation sweet spot we were talking about. Something 2000 to 2008, 9.
Yeah.
In there, the pre, what are we going to call it? Economic apocalypse of 2008. Right in there is kind of the sweet spot if you can. And there are good cars in there. In fact, there's a lot of really good enthusiast cars in there.
Really good cars.
So
we don't hear that very often. The mid 2000s had quite a bit of cool stuff.
We gotta do, the 2005s.
Yeah, we should do that.
The college years.
But before that, why don't you quiz me something fierce?
Oh boy, I will. And so I have one queued up. While I am queuing it up, would you care to explain what we are doing here today, my friend?
Yeah, guys, real quick, Automotive Print Ad Quiz Show, where we quiz each other over various print ads we've pulled from the internet, so it's kind of like a taboo way to procure that. But anyway, before the internet, there were magazines, and these are printed ads, 80s, 90s, early 2000s are fair game, so keep that in mind. We do read the ad. Sometimes these give a lot of information, mostly not though. So we have 3 guesses to get to what the vehicle is in the ad, and you can ask for hints, tap out, or cry if you feel it necessary.
That's a possibility.
Today Frank is quizzing me, so I can't wait to hear what he's brought to the table, and I am going to free my mental log to take notes as he reads this beautiful ad.
Free your mind,
And the rest,
will follow.
Oh.
Or
Jinx,
swallow.
Jinx, you owe me more light.
Blank. Okay, let me explain it first. We are going with the ever popular driver's front 3/4 image.
It's a good popular shot.
And then at the top it says blank. The sporty spirit of blank. It's like a green in color, green over silver. It's a 2-tone special we have here.
Green over silver.
Mm-hmm. Blank for blank. The second blank is a year. Is a remarkable blending of comfort and convenience. Features that meet blank's high standards with a sporty new dimension that includes more standard performance features than ever before. Compare the luxury, compare the performance. Most important, compare the value of blank with anything else in its class. As you would expect with a blank, many luxury features don't cost extra. What's standard on blank? Leather seating areas. Leather wrapped tilt wheel.
Ooh.
Push button air conditioning. Boy. AM FM stereo radio with an asterisk.
FM.
The asterisk is may be deleted for credit. Power assisted steering, brakes, windows, locks, driver seat, and antenna.
Oh.
Plus cruise control, controlled cycle wipers, and much more.
Okay.
with the 2.8 liter V6 multi-port fuel injected engine, now standard in this year. Blank delivers 125 horsepower, nearly 50% more than last year's standard engine.
Wow.
Also standard is a new 5-speed manual transmission and a gas-charged Bilstein Delco suspension system, which is tuned for the precise response of a sports sedan with the ride and comfort of a Blank. Visit your Blank dealer soon and discover Blank, the sporty spirit of Blank.
So, green over silver is catching me up, but you said 2.8 multi-port?
2.8 multi-port fuel injected V6.
So we're
now
talking-
standard delivers 125 more horsepower,
God,
which,
that's a lot
if
of
you're
power.
doing your math, is nearly 50% more power than last year's standard engine.
That's embarrassing. 2.8, so we're talking GM.
It's dubbing itself a sport sedan with the ride comfort
That's
of
right.
Blank.
And it had Bilsteins, but it was
Bilstein
AC
Delco.
Delcos, yeah. So combo.
Right. So Bilstein told them to make some sort of formula, and then Delco built it, and then they paid Bilstein some money to use their name.
Excellent. So green and silver. This is a tough one. Like we talked about, GM's 2.8 multi.
I know, we're back. I went back to the
Except
back
you
to
didn't,
the
drop
well.
you didn't drop the make on me at least.
I didn't slip the make.
So I feel like the Bilsteins kind of feel special.
Gas-charged Bilstein Delco suspension system, which is tuned for the precise response of a sport sedan with the ride comfort of a Blank. Blank being manufacturer. I'm not like saying like the ride comfort of a sweaty, veiny Johnson.
They are talking about, the problem is they're talking about luxury a lot. And Pontiac was excitement, so they probably talk about sporty stuff more, in my opinion.
Perhaps they
And
might be building driving excitement.
God damn it, are we in Buick land or Oldsmobile land still? We sure could be.
Perhaps.
Damn it, Frank. This is tough. Like I said, if I didn't give you Oldsmobile, like that 2.8 doesn't really help.
I will tell you this.
Yeah.
It is not the exact same car that you read
I
to me.
figured so much. I kind of feel so. Luxury puts me in Oldsmobile or Buick. Yeah, let's just start off because I don't know the make. Let's go with a Buick Regal.
Very good guess. That is incorrect.
Okay.
It is not a Buick Regal. In fact, it's not a Buick at all.
Okay.
There's your hint, my friend.
God, now it's only a million Oldsmobiles to guess. Unless Pontiac was trying to go for a luxury thing here.
I will say, it is not an Oldsmobile. It is not a Buick. It is not a Pontiac. Those are the brands that you have said, and it is none of those.
No, I didn't think they stuck this engine in anything Cadillac. Is it possible? Oh God. Yeah. What is Cadillac? Final answer. I don't think I'm gonna get the make.
Sir, I believe I need at least a desperate grasp at of a model, sir. Considering I literally gave you Cadillac.
Yeah. It took me guesses to get that one.
We walked our way there.
Dude.
What if I tell you it's one of the greatest embarrassments in maybe GM history, certainly probably the brand of Cadillac.
I mean, there's a few times. I don't think it's.
Oh no, that brand has plenty of things. You know, you've got your E46.
The Catera was a 3-liter, so it wouldn't be that mess up. I don't know, man. I'm dead. I'm dead in the water.
You going?
Cadillac Cimarron. I know that's not right, but I'll take it.
Cimarron, the sporty spirit of Cadillac.
It was a 4-door?
Yes.
Why did I
here.
picture the Cimarron as a big 2-door coupe?
No, it was a reback. This was
It is a 4-door.
single-handedly one of the worst vehicles ever made, and an absolute black eye for Cadillac.
It's
Because
a
you know what it was?
rebadge.
It was a rebadged Cavalier.
Yeah.
They rebadged the Cavalier.
It wasn't the first. They did that after, too, with the.
The Catera was pretty much the spiritual successor to this car.
Which had a
The
3-liter.
They had the 3-liter. That was a rebadged Opel.
Was this a
Omega.
coupe, too, though? Was the
No.
Cimarron a coupe?
No. The Alante was the coupe.
So that's where I was mixing.
That was like
crossing my Cadillacs.
Yeah, that was the
Dude.
Pininfarina designed and built front-wheel drive, North Star at the end of the run car is what you're thinking of.
How did I pull that
The
out?
Cimarron is a true piece of automotive tragedy.
I think I was mixing Alante and Cimarron imagery. is why I was thinking Alante's.
Perhaps.
I still pulled it out, man.
The Cadillac Cimarron.
Oh my god!
But that's a
hard.
tough one. That 2.8 is in
Everything, and that's why.
And it's a terrible engine.
But they put it literally in every GM product. I don't know why I didn't
Just a
think
boat
Cadillac.
anchor. Yeah, Cadillac. I know you were just like, okay, it's got to be Oldsmobile.
Because I was figuring they put the 2.8 in their.
That's got to be the
Two
only.
doors.
That's the only thing I think that Cadillac product that motor was in.
That's what I was thinking.
Or
too.
4-cylinder. Are there other four? I mean, there's like ATS now, but like.
I don't think they did back then.
I mean, I don't think they did until probably literally until the ATS, right?
Yeah, the CTS never had a 4-cylinder turbo at the end of its run, maybe.
No, I don't think so. I think that was literally it was this car.
It was either a 6 or an 8.
It was this car or the. Well, I guess there's probably some shitty crossovers that we don't care about.
I don't know if they stuck that 2.8 in anything.
They don't.
That might be it.
No, the 2.8 they didn't. The
Yeah,
2.8.
that's why I didn't
But
even think of it at
4-cylinder.
first. How many Oldsmobiles did that and Buicks did that 2.8 find its way
I
into?
almost pulled up a different one that had the 2.8 in it.
Oh god.
That was perhaps an offering.
Okay, so it took me a while to at least get to the brand.
Yes. You did it though. We figured that out. It took some effort.
That's a hard one. That's a
tough one. That would have been me doing all of that if you didn't
Say
spoil your
Buick.
load on Buick on last episode or Oldsmobile on last episode.
Mm.
So,
Ouch.
now that is done with
Yeah, did my
and
time.
over with, and you've done your TVs,
God,
done
dude,
your
how did I get
things. What's going on with you in some project car progress, PCP, if you will.
The PCP flavor I'm doing this week, the Land Cruiser. So after off-roading rough a few times,
Cruising.
both the front diff axle seals, so where the axles actually plug into the differential, are both seeping horribly. So axles are in great shape. The axles look like they were swapped out at one point. Unfortunately, the axle seals, probably not. Sometimes that gets overlooked because that's extra book time at a dealership or whatever.
Yep.
And folks will opt out of that. So I need to do both, and they are interesting. They're both different part numbers, which always makes it really interesting because there's kind of like there's like a diff tube on the, I think it's the passenger side of this vehicle.
Oh, okay.
So it kind of fits in differently.
Sure.
So what I did smartly, and I always recommend.
The pumpkins are off center, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it's the center of the car. The engine's kind of in the middle there.
Want some off-road?
Yeah.
Extra clearance on one side for some off-road.
True. But the thing is, I got the diff drop kit too because of my lift, so it's all done properly.
You're dropping as if it were hot.
Dropping it real hot.
Yeah.
Too hot this time. So
Too hot to handle.
the thing is, guys, when you replace these kind of seals, it's all about the labor. The seals really don't cost that much, but the labor to take axles out, put the seals in, then put the new axles and put everything back together is where it costs you. Don't cheap out. Don't, if you can, get the Toyota parts. So I went to Toyota, ordered the parts. They still can order them. These cars are still plentiful, and I think they use them like for a lot of future models too.
Sure.
So that's going to be a fun job. I'm going to do that without taking the axles out of the hub, or at least attempt it.
Cool.
Save myself some hours
That
there.
would be nice.
So that's the plan, and then the Land Cruiser will be back, ready to go off-roading.
Back cruising.
How about you, man? What kind of project car progress you got this week?
Well, as discussed before, I have myself now a very large vehicle. That would be the GMT 400, or sorry, 800. It's twice as more GMTs as the previous edition.
Yeah.
2001 Suburban.
I can't wait for you to show me that big black surprise after this podcast.
I will, yes. You will get blacked with my large C71 Suburban. Black over tan-ish leather.
Okay.
Grayish, tannish, somewhere in between. Maybe it used to be tan and it's now like settled into a dirtier gray. But it's been good. I've been driving it around. I've done only the tickiest, tackiest stuff on it. So I did tires, got some BFG all-terrains on it.
That's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
Tires are big.
You have to mount those with the white letters facing out. It's the only way to do it.
100%.
So white letters printed facing out. And then I've been driving it, so I've done some towing with it. I towed the sandbar to Radwood, as we talked about last.
Wasn't even close to getting close to the capacity, right?
Yeah. No, I think it's like 8,000 is factory tow capacity on it. So a 1,500 pound trailer and a 2,000 pound, maybe like a 2,000 pound trailer and a 2,000 pound car. So it's not halfway there.
Yeah. Living on a prayer.
Definitely. So that's working out well. Really, the only work I've done on it besides tires was. It's got the optional auto dim side mirrors.
Oh, okay.
And the driver's side one was both cracked and perpetually dimmed. So I just ordered one of those pre-cut, double-side sticky mirrors on it, which I've used in the past with excellent results. And so I got this one. It was just like the cheapest one at Rock Auto, but it was like Dorman brand, so whatever. It's kind of crappy. Like the fitment's not great, and like there's like a wavy spot in it. So like if you, it kind of like hurts my brain. To, like,
is it kind of like Cypress Hill instate in the membrane? You know that part where it gets all distorted.
A little bit, yeah.
Very
yeah,
cool.
it's like I'm like an acid trip fever drink. So we've got that going, but otherwise I've just been kind of driving it. I drove it here, so you will have to check it out shortly. And it's been good. I still need to do the window regulator on the driver's side. I still need to do, it's got the ABS and traction control warning lights on because, or ABS and brake warning lights on. There's like a faulty solder in the ABS control unit, which is a known issue. I get a rebuilt module for like $200.
Okay.
But before I do that, I might fish it out, and I guess there's like instructions online on like how to resolder it, so I might try that.
It's 100% that, not like a speed sensor or something.
I plugged the scanner into it.
Okay.
And I was able to pull what the module was reading, and sitting there stopped in park, just idling, it was reading, it was going -2 miles an hour at all 4 corners.
Oof. Okay.
So it's not like one was giving out a bad signal or something. And I guess it's a somewhat common issue on these. So worst case, it cost me $200 to send it out and get it rebuilt, or I'll just try it myself, and if it works great, if it doesn't, then I'll just buy a rebuild one. So that's all I'm up to. That's all I'm doing.
Very cool.
And I think that means we are officially done. Wrapped up. Wrap it up. Every time. I am Frank. I am available if you want to stalk me digitally. Instagram and YouTube at The Photographer's Garage. Collectively, we are another pointless automotive podcast, and you can find us on all those same places. How about you, Chavo?
Yeah, you guys can find me at the Auto Obsessive Garage on YouTube,
And
Instagram.
in the club.
Yeah, especially in the club where it's going down usually. Nine times out of 10.
At least 90% of the time.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks again for listening in, guys. I'm going to go check out this sweet ass Suburban.
Let's go with the
Who says
bourbon.
that?
The bird. The bird
All right,
life.
guys.
You ever seen the movie The Burbs? We'll save it for next time.
How about Suburban Commando? Does that count?
Oh, that is a good one. That's with
The Hopester.
yes, thank you, Hulkamania, brother. And he throws that kid's skateboard like goes into space.
So awesome.
Yes.
All right, guys.
On that note,
Thanks for joining us.
goodbye.
Take care.